Welcome, everybody, to the Huddle, KGA 9's weekly streaming sports talk show. I'm Jason Barr, joined by Pat Parris. Pat, good afternoon.
Aloha.
Aloha,
Jason. Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, we got a lot to chat about. I don't want to spend too much time on this leg, right? Because we got some bad Arizona football to talk about here. But let's start with our Huddle poll question. Should Arizona head football coach Brent Brennan continue to wear a lei while coaching? Okay. Here are the three choices. 1, yes. 2, it's enough already. And 3, it looks silly, take it off. 2 meaning, okay, enough for now, right? It's supposed to be a neutral one. I'm sure, Pat, that's where you're going. Although maybe now you're going with 1. I don't know.
Oh, I'm totally on 1.
You're totally on 1. You think Brent Brennan should continue to wear a lei while coaching?
No, I think Brent Brennan, if he's given a lei from a family member of one of his Polynesian players, should continue to wear it, because let me read this little nugget, Jason. This is right off the Aloha Hawaii website.
Pat, we don't live in Hawaii. We live in Arizona.
Just listen. Okay. Leis are made with the leaves, the one he wears, sometimes flowers, but you saw the one in week 2 where it was just a plant. Those are from the tea plant, and they're considered to bring good luck. Okay.
That didn't work.
Do not refuse a lei when offered one. This is considered to be disrespectful. And if there's one thing we know about the Pacific Islander culture, there is great tradition in leis. You do not want to say no to one. If a grandmother of one of your players or a mother of one of your players gives you one as the head coach, it's a sign of respect. It's a sign of good luck. You wear that lei proudly. It began with Dick Tomey. It continues with Brent Brennan. And I don't know what the big deal is. Why?
Okay, so maybe if they were on a winning streak still, okay, and you want to be a little superstitious, but that winning streak is over. We don't live in Hawaii. We don't live in the Philippines, okay? We live in Arizona, okay? If anything, I'd like to see him wear a sombrero for Hispanic Heritage Month. If you this, because it's a slippery slope. If you're going to embrace one culture, you need to embrace every culture that's on the team.
And the University of
Arizona, I'm with
Arizona,
number 2. It's enough already.
Yeah.
Let's coach the football team and not worry about leis. You can thank the player's family, and you can wear them outside of coaching.
No, you can't. You have to wear it if they are offered to you. Yes, Jason, it's the culture. He's
too nice of a guy to say no.
No. You're absolutely wrong. I'm sorry, you're wrong on this one, Jason. You have to wear it if you're presented.
Can we see the early results?
Part of the
Ryan,
culture.
Our producer.
Part of the culture.
Let's take a look at the early results. We're going to come back to this later in the show. Most people are agreeing with Pat. We'll see how this changes.
Well, it could change. People get outraged one way or the other, or get influenced one way.
I think it's a little bit too much now. I think it was fine for Big 12 Media Day and maybe the first game, but to wear this every game, this is not the Hawaii football team. This is Arizona. You've got several Polynesian players. You've got several Hispanic players. You've got several Black players. There could be a Jewish player on the team. What about a Christian player? I don't think you could be wearing a lei every single game. I think it's too much.
So let me explain what I'm wearing. I'm wearing a lei made out of kukui nuts, and these are also good luck, and it's supposed to be prosperous and long life. And whenever you go to Hawaii, you bring this back. So each time I go to Hawaii, I take this with me, and as I leave, I get at the wherever you're staying at, they give you another kukui nut it unties. See here, it untie, and you put another kukui nut on. And it's disrespectful not to accept that. And in fact, it's for them, it's a great honor for you to wear it. Just think of it as there is no other culture that I'm aware of in the world. When you step onto that soil, they give you something as a tradition that you wear, and it's disrespectful if you don't. You can
he's not coaching Hawaii, Pat.
But it doesn't matter to the Polynesian people. The world is what they care about. They
shouldn't be pushing their culture on other people in other areas.
How is he pushing this culture? We had a Hispanic Heritage night a week and a half ago at Arizona Stadium. They were part of that. They'll do whatever any player, if another player's parent had some other way to show their culture, I'm sure that Brent Brennan would. This isn't not just we're only pinpointing one specific culture. It has nothing to do with it. It only has to do with a tradition that's always been there for the Polynesian culture, and and it's a great honor. And I would wear it every time. If
you wear it on the news, then let's see, wear it on the news.
No, if I was given one by a Polynesian player and I was a coach, I would wear it. If I'm a fan at the U of A and T-Mac's mom came up and gave me a lay, right, I'd be wearing it. I'd never take it off until it wilted and fell apart.
All right. So most people do agree with you. I think it's fine for now. I don't think he should keep wearing it going forward. We'll agree to disagree, but we need to get off that. We're never going to get to the game because we can go all day with that. We will come back to this Huddle poll question later in the show. And part of the reason why I think he needs to take it off is because they're losing, or at least they lost this game. And Pat, they're 2-1, but they have not looked good in 3 games, and they look really bad. They look really bad at Kansas State. This team has not passed the eye test in any of the 3 games. Okay.
Especially defensively in 2 of the 3.
Here's Avery Johnson, the Kansas State quarterback. Brent Brennan makes him out to be some fantastic athletic quarterback. This guy's 19 years old, didn't know the clock management. Okay. They didn't lose because they played some great quarterback. They lost because there's an undisciplined football team that doesn't really have a in sync on offense other than one player, a wide receiver. And they haven't looked good in any 3 phases, offense, defense, or special teams. I'll give them the special teams, though. That punt return for a touchdown should have been a call as a block.
Should have been called back.
Yeah.
So here's what I'm going to point to 2 plays that I'm not saying Arizona would have and should have won the game. I'm not saying that at all. 2 plays in this game really turned it into an ugly game. Then it could have been a much more competitive game. The non-call on the block in the back for a return for a touchdown on the punt return.
They should have called that.
There's no question. And the second one is Noah Fafita throws an interception that should have been a touchdown. If you have an accurate pass that we expect him to make every time, and unfortunately he didn't. I'm not saying they would have won the game, Jason. I'm not saying that at all. But a 14-14 game at that point sure looks a lot different than where it ended up. And
I heard other people say that too. Why should that have been a touchdown? I think maybe an incomplete pass, but that ball was in the air a long time.
Yeah, that's got
a chance to get over.
Jason, if you see the route, he's open. So if you zip the ball, which Fafita almost always does, I mean he's a great decision maker, except for in this game. And he's very accurate with his passes, and he zips his passes. That one hung in the air, and we saw one last week, the week before here at Arizona Stadium that he got picked off. That both hung in the air for whatever reason. If you zip the pass like he normally does, that's a touchdown. We've seen him do it probably 10 times in his young career already, and so that's why I think you can say that it should have been a touchdown. Or at least it had a great chance to be a touchdown if he throws the ball accurately, and he didn't.
All right, one of the problems so far for the Arizona football team has been penalties. We've got a graphic to take a look at that.
Question.
Arizona, one of the worst teams in college football. This is the most penalty yards allowed. So we got 133 FBS teams. Arizona's 129th, okay? Only 3 teams have allowed more penalties than Arizona. One of them, ironically, is Washington, okay? Right. 28 penalties, 269 yards. That's 90 penalty yards a game. Fish's Washington team is up there too. I don't think Fish should have left Arizona. I think he made a big mistake. That's another topic for another day. But funny to see that team up there, and a few other power.
And don't forget, Jason, not last year necessarily, but remember in Jed Fish's first couple of years, they had penalty problems too. In fact, that first year you were like, okay, well, it's not all his players, things like that, but they were committing a lot of penalties those first couple seasons under Jed Fish. I don't know what that means.
Right. Well, there's 2 types of penalties. There's discipline and there's technique, right? So the discipline would be you can't start the play because you got a false start or you got a personal foul after the play.
Right.
Technique is, hey, you're holding the guy because you're getting beat. Right. Rhino's getting beat, so he's holding the guy. So there's 2 very different types of penalties.
Yeah, that's correct. And a lot of that penalty yardage came in the first 2 weeks when they were getting some really dumb, unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. Just the after the play nonsense that you just don't want to see. And I haven't watched every bit of every one of the 3 Washington games either, but I'm guessing that they must have some 15-yarders in there. That you can't get to 90 or 96 yards in their case per game without a couple of 15-yarders.
Yeah. Okay. So we're just mixing not all bad here because I got some more negative stuff for Arizona football. Let's go ahead and show you our other graphic, which is the wide receiver leading yards in the nation here. By the way, the leading receiver in the nation is from San Jose State. Why didn't Brent Brennan bring him with him?
Probably because he knew Tedero McMillan was here. He wasn't
Yeah,
going to
but we need a second receiver. Nobody's stepped up so far. That's been an issue. And now Malachi Riley is hurt. Anyway, Nick Nash, somebody named Nick Nash from San Jose State's leading the nation in receiving yards. Tedero McMillan is second. He would be first if he just caught one or two more balls against NAU, right? We need a bad game.
Yeah.
Okay. But, and by the way, not pictured, Travis Hunter's about 7th or 8th on that list, the Colorado receiver.
Yeah, I still think Tedero McMillan was not 100% in that game against NAU, but I don't have any proof of that. He just didn't look right in that game against NAU.
Well, it's because he wasn't limited. He didn't look right because it was the first game all year. He was guarded. Okay, he wasn't guarded against New Mexico.
Yeah, he was guarded in this game, and he ended up having a pretty solid game. The problem is he just didn't find the end zone, and that was the problem with the offense. I think if you go back and look at this game, and you can't, you say, okay, Fafita threw that one interception. It was a bad interception. It turned out to be a critical interception. But I think the offense moved the ball at certain times. They had their share of 3 and outs, but the defense also forced a couple 3 and outs for Kansas State. But bottom line is you got to find the end zone, and we went down that road for how long with 2 years ago with Jed Fish here, that they weren't putting the ball in the end zone. They finally turned that around last year. Of course, quarterback change helped a lot of that too.
I don't think the passing game has been good all season. You may say, oh my gosh, what do you mean? They scored 61 points against New Mexico. That's 2 guys playing pitch and catch. One of them, the receiver, McMillan, wasn't guarded. It's not like he spread it around that game. Okay. They looked terrible against NAU. Okay. The offense. And then this past week, the great first drive. And then after that, no points. It's just not really kind of in rhythm. Keon Burnett, the tight end, is a stud at 6'6".
I agree.
He's supposed to have a breakout year.
I did the story on him preseason. Yeah. I did the story on him. I thought he was going to have a breakout year, and so far not.
I would love to see T-Mac, Burnett, and Speedy Luke on the field at the same time. I think that would be very difficult to cover for opposing defenses. Pat, when you look at offenses, do you look at a team's creativity on offense, and do you evaluate that? And if so, what's your evaluation of the creativity of the Arizona offense?
Well, right now, my evaluation of the Arizona offense is the offensive line has been, in disarray at times and have had injuries. They finally got back to what we'd like to see as probably the starting unit, but now they just don't have enough reps together. And I think that's where it all, everybody always says it starts up front. So it's your big offensive line against their big but still fast defensive line. And right now, Arizona's offensive line is not getting the job done. And so that affects everything from not only the run game and being able to run some passes that might be able to fool the defense a little bit, to not being able to consistently run the football. And they've had some chunk yards on both counts, passing the ball and running the ball, Jason, but they don't consistently just get the 7-yard runs or the 3-5-yard run. They're feast or famine in both accounts, both throwing and running the football.
Should the line be that weak, though? Yes, they lost Jordan Morgan, a first rounder, but it's not like they lost the whole offensive line. They had to rebuild the whole offensive line. They got 3 or 4 guys, including Savanea, with a lot of experience.
Yeah. And Savanea has had to move around, right, because of injury, and now hopefully back to where he belongs. And I think, no, they should be better than they are. And I think you have to hold some accountability. And Jason, that's my big theme for the week is I believe, I have no proof of this, just as an outside observer. I feel like you had a new coaching staff come in and they said, hey, we're going to install a few things, but you guys know what you're doing. Look at what you did last year. And we don't want to upset the apple cart. So we're going to let you guys, we're going to try to do as much as we can the way you did it before. But what ends up happening is, as a coaching staff, is you don't actually get any of your fingerprints on this, right? You don't get in there and you don't start yelling, and you don't start coaching necessarily the way you want to coach. You kind of just massage what you're seeing with what happened last year. And I don't think it's working. I don't think there's any accountability, certainly with a coach being able to yell at a player for making some bonehead mistakes and costing us big penalty yards, or making a bonehead mistake and coming out of your stance as an offensive line and going the wrong way. We just go left, you go right. I mean, so I think there needs to be some accountability. And I hope during this bye week, we see some screaming, and we see some guys.
I don't think you're ever going to see screaming from this coaching staff.
Well, you don't know that, Jason. You don't. When I say screaming, it doesn't have to be in your face screaming. It has to be some coaching, some. You're doing it wrong. I know you guys did this last year. It worked for you, but we're going to have to start. It's not working this year, so we're going to have to start working.
Well, the receivers getting off block seems to be an issue. Receivers not getting open. They don't have a second receiver. Nobody's really stepped up, or they're not getting the second receiver the ball.
That can be coaching too.
It was supposed to be Lamonius Craig.
So what are we seeing here? Are we seeing things where they're just completely the athleticism of another team is just way above what Arizona's is? Now you can make an argument K-State looked better certainly in the last quarter and a half than Arizona did, but a lot of that was effort and what the score was. But my point is, I think they have the athletes. I think they have the talent. I think they're just not playing the way certainly that they played at the last half of last year and the way we thought they'd come out. There's got to be some coaching done, because that's what's missing to me is some coaching.
Look, if obviously they just come off a 9-game winning streak and they lost a game. So you could say, oh, Jason, one loss, you're making too big a deal of it. If they had lost 24-20 in some real tough road game coming off a 9-game winning streak and looked good the first 2 weeks, I would feel much differently. And I would say, listen, it's very hard to win every single game. I mean, come on, let's give them a little break. Okay. But to make an analogy to the basketball team, which we did a little bit last week, when we have seen Tommy Lloyd's teams come out of the gate in his first 3 years, those have looked like basketball teams. Yeah. And you and I have said, whoa, this team's a little bit better than we thought. And they have followed those up with big regular seasons. This team has not passed the eye test in either of the 3 games. Don't be fooled by T-Mac's huge game. The receiver fell down, and then he was single-teamed by a group of 5 team. Okay? There's much different when you go into a Big 12 stadium. And they showed last week they are not ready for prime time. It was a Friday night, national television, Big 12 stadium. And after one drive, they had nothing.
Yeah, well, we can disagree about that. They actually did have another drive, ended in an interception in the end zone, and they had a couple other drives that ended up with no points.
It was like a 40-yard pass. It wasn't like they were knocking on the doorstep of the end zone.
But the problem is their defense is not ready for prime time. I don't know if it ever.
And let me jump in here. Dwayne Akina, chest bumping people at the end of the NAU when he gets a 4th down stop against NAU. Come on. I mean, when Johnny Nansen did that last year, okay, that was against a big Pac-12 opponent, big, huge game. The defense had been good. Act like your defense has made a stop before, okay? And going nuts for a 4th down stop
they made, and it's first stop they made since last December. So I was excited.
Oh no! Come on. Act like you've made a stop before. It's one thing if that was against, ASU in the 4th quarter. Okay, fine. But against NAU on a 4th down, your own stadium, and you're acting like you just won the whatever for a 4th. I don't know.
Well, I'll say this, Jason. When we headed into this stretch after the first 2 games, I said 3-1 is what I'm hoping for, because I think that shows that this is a competitive team. If they're 2-2 after the first 4 games, that's disappointing. And they've got to make some.
They're going to Utah, a top 15 team, and win that game.
I said that at the beginning of these next 2, the Kansas State Utah game.
Good luck against Texas Tech's offense the following week.
Now I'm wondering, can you make some adjustments, especially offensively? Look, you're not gonna hold one of these, a Kansas State, a Utah, even a Texas Tech. You're not going to hold this team to 10 points. You're not going to hold them to 14 points. So your offense has got to score. And your offense has got to get back to what it did against New Mexico, and that's scoring almost every possession. Because if you don't, then you're not going to win. You're not going to win any of these games against these big, at least these upper echelon teams of the Big 12. That's for sure.
The line's got to get better fast, and the defense has got to get some pressure.
Well, maybe this, it's an early bye week, and you're like, wow, you want a bye week 4 week in the 4th week, but maybe this is what they need. I don't know. I mean, as I said, some coaching has to be done here, and this is the time to do it. And now they have 2 weeks to get it done.
Yeah, I don't think he's an in your face coach, so I don't know how he would do that other than to just bench somebody, or have somebody else kind of do the work for
create
you.
competition. That's how you do it. You create competition.
He's frustrating. I find him a little frustrating, Pat. At the end of the, you hear the same coach speak. Oh, it's on me. I got to coach the team better. Well, one of those are just empty words,
Yeah. So is hey, from middle of the third quarter to the start of the fourth quarter, we won that game. We might have lost it on the
You're talking about fish in year zero. That's a different situation, Pat. He's kicking over a team.
It wasn't year zero
by
Jason,
9 touchdowns.
Talking
this
about
guy inherited the Alamo Bowl champions.
You're still talking about Jed Fish that was saying some of that in year 2 as well. It wasn't just his year 0. It was actually year 1 and then some in year 2. But year three, they did well.
Sorry, go ahead.
I said in year 3 they did very well. Obviously, once
they lost 3 games by a total of 16 points.
Yeah,
and then when they got over the hump, they never lost.
Once they changed quarterbacks.
Let's look at but you make too big of a deal of that. I mean, that's just how life works. The Patriots changed quarterbacks when
they were headed for a 500 record, and then as luck would have it, you have an injury to your starter, and your backup comes in and never gives the job back up.
Yeah, that's what happened to the Patriots. All right, so let's take a look at let's revisit the Huddle poll question here. See if we got any more votes. Doesn't look like anybody voted in the last few minutes. So people vote so we can get a more accurate polling, and also when you watch this on delay, there'll be some updated ones. So, but yeah, I guess people like delay. They didn't on Twitter, on X.
Well, people feel a little bit more compelled to put forth their opinions on X.
Yeah, I guess what this shows is that StreamYard for Professionals is not StreamYard for Professionals. The KGod9 website is a more friendly place than X. So I'll take that. I'll take that.
I guess that's one opinion. That's one way to look at it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think I maybe I'll put this, now that we've done this, maybe I'll put that poll on X. I'll word it carefully here and see what people vote.
See what happens.
And see what happens.
That'll be interesting.
So, all right, bye week here, and then they go to Utah. And
big bye week, Jason. Comes early. You got to get some things accomplished, or this season will spiral out of control. I didn't think this team would be nearly as good as last year. I didn't have, even when we made our predictions, I didn't have them winning 10 games again and going to and winning a big bowl game, but I did have them being competitive and winning probably 8 games. And well, you just wonder, this will be a key the next couple of weeks. Utah, nobody's going to give them any chance. That's fine. But then you come home to Texas Tech. There's no such thing as must wins that early in the season, but it's a real need to win one or if not both of these next 2 games.
All right, we've got a special guest next week. We can say it, I think.
Yeah. I mean, he's confirmed.
Yeah, ESPN personality Mike Greenberg is going to be our guest next week on the bye week. He's got a book he's going to promote, and we'll ask him about that and kind of steer the topic a little bit towards Arizona. And I figure we'll ask him a question you brought up before, Pat, which is Arizona basketball blue blood or no, because they haven't won enough in the postseason. Because regular season, you look at their record last 10 or 15 years. So we'll hear what he says about that and some other topics. And if you want to ask him a question regarding that, we'll be glad to look at it and kind of make it a little bit more Arizona-centric for sure. So looking forward to that next week.
Yeah, should be a lot of fun.
All right, for Pat Parris, I'm Jason Barr. This has been the Huddle. KGod9's
Aloha, Jason. Aloha.
Aloha, everybody. We'll see you right back here next week.